Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Russell, this is Corey, and I'm not sure who my little helper is here, but this is the star of the show, folks. So we're from Custom Building Products. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about some products and some techniques that will help you in your business. How many of you do your own shower pans? How many of you guys are installers? Okay. When you do your shower pan, is it normally small, 8, 12 feet, 15? You ever done anything that size? How long did it take you? Like a week, a little over maybe? Everything. Okay? If I could take a day and a half out of that, would you be interested? Okay, cool. All right, anybody else in here an installer? Got to be more of you. Cool. All right, so let's talk about why things take a little bit longer. We have some antiquated systems and some antiquated products. You doing all right? Hanging in there? All right. Bye. So if you see right here, we have TCNA, the old TCNA, I believe it's 415, where you have a pre-slope, you have your pan liner, you have your lath support with your sloping mortar, then you get a chance to get into your other waterproofing or your tile work. That takes a long time with traditional products. So if you look at things in a layered system, you kind of read down here, day 4 to 6, your customer might get their shower back. Depends on what kind of grout you use, what kind of bonding mortar you use, things like that. You always have to wait on a lot of things to dry. So we're going to talk to you about a couple of different products that will speed that up just by themselves, and then we're going to give you a different technique towards the end of this to give you an idea how fast you can do this and how much money we can save you. So we're going to talk to you first about our speed slope. It looks, acts, packs, and finishes out like a standard 4-to-1 sand mix. So I'm going to turn this over to Corey. He's going to tell you a little bit more about this product, and then we'll move on. Corey?
All right, thank you, Russell. Anytime you have a fast curing product, either epoxy grout or, in this case, a mud, it's got a chemical accelerator in it. Generally, if you leave it in the bucket in mass, it's going to generate more heat, and that's kind of the curing process. You want to get it out of the bucket to give you more working time. So with your first bucket that you get, dump it out. Use that to create all your perimeter screeds and all your screeds that determine the pitch to the drain. And then with each subsequent bucket that comes out, dump all of those out as well, and then kind of layer it as you go, spreading it over the whole area, as opposed to, you know, doing one section full height. The idea being that your last bucket is going to be your freshest material, and then that gives you the most working time to finish off your top coat and get a nice, real clean, tight surface. So basically using a dry pack mix, you can actually use more water and make it more of a plastic mix if you want to use it for floating walls. But we're just going dry pack, and the whole idea with this is, it's just a drier mix, and the idea is that we want to get all of the voids out of this. And it's got a finer sand. And what that sand does, and what the benefit to that for us is, that when you cut it off, any voids that you do get, they feather in really nice. So this is actually cutting off pretty good, so I might not have to do too much work with it. But usually at the end here I get a little bit of a low spot, and that being the case, just throw a little bit of this in here, into these low spots. That fine sand allows that to feather in really nice. And once you get this the way you want to, and take the time when you're floating and you know you're following it up with a like a liquid applied waterproofing membrane. It's important because that's going to be the more expensive part of the process or the system, and you want to make sure you're not filling in a lot of divots and low spots with your liquid membrane. Then once you get it to where you want it and it's nice and smooth, then your last hit is going to be with a flat trowel. You just hit that, slick it down, and that makes it a nice, real good smooth surface to apply your waterproofer to.
All right, if we could go back to the product slide. So one thing you notice, you see how it works, but this little line right here that says rapid setting allows tile setting in 1 to 2 hours. That's even if your perimeter on the outside is 5 inches thick. So you can literally save half a day just with your sloping mortar right here drying in 1 to 2 hours. Can be used in wet and dry applications, so if you're using in other applications, you can definitely do that. It's actually smooth finish, so if you can see on the camera, I don't know how close I can get, that's really flat, really fine sand in there, makes it a very, very smooth surface. Easy to finish out, easy to make sure you get the right consistency in a dry pack. Now you can do other things with this product as well. Finishes out nice and smooth. You can also do trenching, backfills, which is nice as you can still go up to 5 inches thick and it dries in 1 to 2 hours. Instead of waiting overnight to go back in and do your tile work, now by the time you get your tile ready to go, come back in and start tiling right over top. And Corey mentioned you can mix this with a little extra water to what we call a plastic consistency. So if you're floating walls, shaping columns, doing mud work that allows you to do ramping like that, still 1 to 2 hour dry time. All right, so we've given you a fast setting shower pan mud. Now let's move on to the next layer. There we go. This is our Red Guard Speed Coat. Anybody in here familiar with our standard Red Guard, regular Red Guard material? Okay, regular Red Guard material is what we call an elastomeric compound. The elastomeric compound has to dry by evaporation. That's the only way it can consolidate and become monolithic. So it goes on a little thicker than normal, and it takes a little longer to dry. Now, if any of you have used this product in cold, damp weather, you know that you basically hate it for the first couple of months of the year because it takes forever to dry. We've come up with Red Guard Speed Coat. Now, this is a waterproof membrane only that loves moisture, whether it's hot and humid or whether it's cold and damp. This is what we call a moisture-cured waterproof membrane. Now, if you see this line up here, it says exceptionally fast cure time. 1 coat cures in as little as 1 hour. Reason being is it cures chemically. We don't need evaporation to make this dry, and it goes on at 6 mils, so it's a very thin layer anyway. Now, it's not used for crack isolation, it's just used for waterproofing. That's why we can get away with that 6 mil application, and we can get away with that 1 hour dry time. So we've come across a couple of things that we can use this with in addition, and some techniques that work with this particular product that we kind of discovered by accident. So I'm gonna let Corey go ahead and show you that.
All right. So second part of this fast curing shower pan system. Anytime you're using a brand new product, work in small sections, do kind of little test area before you actually start using it on your installation. If you've used our Red Guard material, this is a little different viscosity. It works better as opposed to just pouring this on the floor if you're doing a floor. Work out of a paint pan, a little more efficient. So I'm only going to pour out, obviously I'm not doing a whole lot of area here, so I don't need that much. This is not water soluble, so I'm using a rag here that's got a little bit of either rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol on it. Just makes it easier for cleaning it off your hands if you need to. Clean that rim off. Make sure that if you're not using the entire bucket that you keep a nice clean seal on it. And it's similar to paint in that if you're not using it right now, don't have it open and just exposed to the air because it'll have a tendency to skin over. Same holds true with the material that's in the paint pan. Keep it moving around so that it doesn't skin over. But once you get it out, I'm using a 3/8 snap paint roller here, and you can actually go ahead and start using this to apply it. But one thing we found is, with a mortar bed, you got a lot of profile there. You got a lot of little nooks and crannies. It's usually not going to be super flat. And if you've painted before, you know that the friction that's created with the roller, you get a lot of little pinholes and air bubbles. Same thing holds true with this. And so you're going to do a lot more pushing back and forth to really get the material forced into all those little nooks and crannies on your first application. And that kind of goes back to, take the time to get it really flat. And if you have to, take a quick setting cement patch or even a fast setting thin set, just skim coat over it, get that surface nice and tight, and that's going to give you a lot better coverage with your waterproofer. So like I said, you can go ahead and start with this if you want, but we found something that actually works a little better for your first application to get a complete coverage a lot quicker. I'm taking just a grout float here. And this is just a rubber grout float with a nice clean sharp edge. I'm just doing a 1 pass, and you can see that it forces everything down into the nooks and crannies, and it gets you a real good, complete, full coverage to start with. Now, to determine that you have enough material there, the measurement for determining that you have enough material down is using a mill gauge. And what a mill gauge is, it's got these graduating lengths of teeth all the way around it. We're shooting for a 6. We need 2 6 mil coats for cumulative 12 mils. You don't have to check every little section as you go to make sure, because once you start using the product, you're going to have a pretty good feel for what it looks like. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's pick an area that's where I can actually kind of see some of the substrate. Let me put my gauge in there, see what I got. Yeah, I'm barely registering a 1, but if you go over here to where you have a real nice deep red color, let me dip that in. That gives you the mirror image of what what the teeth are coming in contact with. The whole idea is that if it's thick enough, it's going to come up and it's going to hit the bottom tooth of the number that you've designated it needs to be. So with transition joints or changes of plane, where your floor meets the wall or your back wall meets the side wall, any change of plane, if you have a dam and it's like a backerboard construction where you've got joints that need to be addressed, you can use this reinforcing tape. It looks similar to a backerboard tape, but it's also got a thin layer of a fleece on the back. It's always going to be kind of like a sandwich. You got liquid, you got your tape, that mesh goes down into the first coat, and then you'll see this kind of bleeds in pretty good and it absorbs it in. In corners, you can actually fold it and crease it and tuck it in. You can either tuck it in with one of these little cheap chip brushes, and then that's going to be what you actually apply your second coat into the corners, or you can roll it. So again, you want to sandwich it. So you got your liquid, you got your tape, and then more liquid. All right. An alternative method for treating joints, as long as you have a tight joint, like 1/8 of an inch or tighter, you can use 100% silicone caulk. If you're going to do that, shoot that joint really full so that you gain the expansive properties of the silicone in the corners, and then smooth it out real good. Make sure you don't have any lumps and rough spots from the silicone on the wall or on the floor, so that you have a nice smooth surface to apply your waterproofer on. And then basically wait about 30 to 45 minutes till it dries. At that point, it's going to be dry to the touch to where you don't get wet transfer to your finger. At that point, you're good to go to start applying your waterproofer. Around drains, same thing. As long as you're a real tight joint, you can use the silicone. Otherwise, if you're going to use the tape, you cut it in segments and then you kind of overlap it as it goes around the drain flange. You want to make sure those drains are mechanically secure. You don't want to depend on the waterproofer and the tape to stabilize them. You want it secured by either blocking or straps. And once that's all set, then you can determine which one's more appropriate to use, either the tape or the silicone. So with a fast curing mud, fast setting waterproofing, you can really start waterproofing within the same day that you float it, and you can literally save yourself days on this installation.
All right, cool. Thanks, Corey. So on the RedGuard Speed Coat, the tape is extremely important. It's not standard tape that you would use with our actual traditional RedGuard. The traditional RedGuard can be seamed up with a regular backerboard tape. This is thinner, and with that fleece background on it, because the RedGuard itself goes on really thin in this particular case, we needed a thinner tape. So make sure that if you're going to use the RedGuard Speed Coat, get the tape that goes with it. It'll be a lot easier to work with. All right, so again, just to make sure you guys kind of reinforce this, you can put this on with a roller. The grout flow technique is really cool. We just didn't get a professional shot of that, or it'd be up here as well. And around the drain, you can see that. And of course, your change of plane, you want to make sure it's always reinforced, and the coating goes on top as well. Also, Corey mentioned the 100% commercial sealant. That is the silicone, can be used as a caulking or a commercial sealant in your expansion joints as well. All right, so we talked about products that will help save you some time. We looked at an old-fashioned technique. This is a newer technique, or a more modern technique. If you notice, we've taken out the pre-slope, we've taken out the pan liner, and the lath reinforcement in the middle. We've dropped our mortar all the way down to the bottom in a single layer with our speed slope, 2-hour dry time. Go in with our speed coat on top of that. 1 hour per coat, needs 2 coats at 6 mils. And you're basically at the end, or depending on your skill set and the size of the shower, maybe middle way through day 1. With the old system and the old products, you're into day 3 waiting on things to dry. So we've taken at least 1 day out just with products and some minor switches to your technique on the bottom. Go with any of our rapid setting bonding mortars. Take 4 hours to dry before you can grout them. Use our Prism grout, which is a calcium aluminate cement. Not necessarily a speed grout, but it's a lot faster developing, and you get water on it a lot faster or a lot sooner than a standard Portland cement grout. You literally, depending on the size and your skill set, can take a small 80 square foot shower, and by day 2, it can be grouted and used on day 3 instead of day 4, 5, or 6, depending on the grout you use and the materials you use to bond with. So if we could save you that day and a half to 2 days, would that make you some extra money? It would, wouldn't it? You actually run the business, don't you, ma'am? Or does he? He probably does, right? The little guy? Yeah. So you're just a laborer. I can already tell that. So, all right. So we have that kind of system. Everything works a lot better when you can do it faster, but you still have to rely on the product. Now, if you notice, we actually have a few other, oh, I forgot about this slide. This is important. How many of you guys bid your jobs on minutes per square foot? Took me 2 years to figure this out. All right. So go with me here on this. An 80 square foot shower in a traditional method with traditional materials, 96 hours, and some of that is including dry time. So if you switch it to the custom system that goes down to 72 hours, which takes a lot of dry time out of that, down to 54 minutes a square foot, we're literally saving you 20 minutes a square foot. Some guys can put a lot of tile in 20 minutes. So if we can save you that kind of money with just product and technique and give you the ability to move forward faster with products you can rely on, that'd be a pretty good system. All right, so we have other membranes and things we'd like to show you. Our booth is just kind of over there. You can see the big custom banner spinning from the sky up there. But if you'll notice this bucket right here, this is a 3.5 gallon bucket of our standard Red Guard. Red Guard Speed Coat only comes in a gallon bucket. Because it goes on so thin, it will cover the same square foot as the 3.5 gallon bucket of Red Guard. Now, don't get all excited, ma'am. It costs the same as a 3.5 gallon bucket of Red Guard. So it's expensive, but it's worth it. Okay, I had a guy come up to me a while ago and says, really, it's that cheap? And I'm like, no, same price, $100 you pay for the 3.5 gallon bucket of Red Guard. But he ended up walking away going, if it saves me that much time, I'll take it. He's doing a 600 unit apartment complex. So it's going to save him quite a bit of time.